Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Saturday Smackdown. This time, a brand new Saturday Smackdown for a different week, that being week 13th of September 2014. This video is game number 1 in the best of 7 series played between Aizamk and Mitoe for this event. Aizamk, as we know, is the creative guy with the weird strategies who played in my Challengers of the New World events, which, by the way, might actually be finished one day if they'd actually play some more games. Perhaps. Anyway, the other player is Mitoe, who of course was victorious in the previous Smackdown. So today we have two fairly high-level players, resulting in some really nice Age of Empires 3, which once again will be casted by myself and ZutaZuta. I assume everyone at this point is now familiar with Zuta, but I appreciate that some people may not be, if this perhaps is the first commentary of Age of Empires 3 that they have seen in a while, or perhaps ever. It's possible, especially since this is the first match in a series of games. So I'll keep this brief. Zuta is another popular caster who is himself very good at the game. He has exceptional game knowledge, and this is his event. I'm basically a special guest, so there's that. The civilization rules for this event are the same as in the previous Smackdown. It's essentially the same as Challengers of the New World. Basically, every time you win a game, you will no longer be allowed to use the civilization that you won that game with, meaning that you will have to pick a different civilization. This rule adds civilization variety, which is not only entertaining to watch, but kind of required to stop players abusing the strengths of the top-tier civilizations, which is, sort of important more in money matches. This is not a money match, nor was the previous one, but sometimes there is money involved. Perhaps we will work something out in the near future. In addition to that rule, the winner of each match will be required to select their civilization first in the next match. And once they've done that, the loser of the previous game can then go ahead and pick their civilization afterwards. This rule also prevents top-tier civilizations being abused, since it sort of allows the losing player to engineer themselves a more favourable matchup, as they can see what civilization their opponents picked before they get to pick themselves, and I think that's quite nice, giving them that advantage. So there is that, indeed that, and with that all out of the way, I'd just like you guys to know the introductions of all the following videos in this series can now be significantly shorter, since I don't have to explain this now, I can just direct people to this video. So without further ado, enjoy the game. Oh yes.
Here we go. Game number 1 on Siberia. Dutch mirror.
Dutch mirror. Cool. This is a pretty funky matchup.
This is about as guaranteed as you're going to get for
Fortress Age
play.
Oh wow.
Although I would love to see Aizamk do something crazy and like Pike Rush or something like it'd just be more entertaining. But I don't think realistically that's going to happen. Although there are some interesting things that you can do in this matchup, which we'll get into, I guess.
Okay, I suppose my normal introduction is in the east of the map, in the color red, playing as the Dutch is Aizamk. So Aizamk is red this game. We have him over here. Their start is, was it 1, 2, 3, 4 coin crates was that, and 2 wood crates. So
that's correct.
That's quite nice. It's actually one of the best starts you can get in a Dutch mirror. Actually, no, I'm conflicted. I think 100 coin extra. I think is the coin better for an extra villager?
Yeah, I think the coin. I mean, the thing is,
the other argument.
The Dutch is always going to age at like 15 pop, regardless. I mean,
yeah.
You still have a fast age up, and they're not going to idle anyway. So it doesn't.
And
really
that 100.
Matter.
That 100 wood can be used for the bank, so that's quite nice.
Yeah.
He is notably, Aizamk actually going for a trading post here, so now going to start collecting wood for a house.
Yep.
That's interesting. That's non-standard, I would say, as Dutch. Normally that wood is going to be used for a bank in Age 2.
That is very non-standard, which is, and so, I mean, this is something that severely conflicts me. I mean, obviously, Aizamk is his own guy, and he marches to the beat of his own drum, and he does his own builds, which props to him.
Yellow swag.
Yeah, which is props to him for like not playing meta-defining builds, but this is not very good. It makes me nervous. Like it just slows down your bank, your next bank in your fortress, and I just feel like Mitoe's gonna age up to fortress with 4 banks. My prediction is going to be 54 seconds faster, and he's just going to have like triple the Reuters marching around in his opponent's base while he's still trying to age up, and things could get messy in a very short amount of time.
You're definitely right in the sense that what Mitoe is going to be doing is more efficient. Like, I mean, this game's been around for a while now. People have worked out what the optimal builds are for, getting max eco and doing like the best with the Civ. But A's here, this trading post I still think has merit if he can maybe make it work. Obviously, he does his own thing, and he is renowned for being like ridiculous in the things that he does. One of the things he does do when he does play as Dutch is I know he likes to be like aggressive more like to begin with, more so than a lot of players where you usually send 700 wood or a bank wagon as your first shipment in Colonial to get the eco going. But what A's will do is a lot of the time send 8 pikemen and then just march over to his opponent's base, start sieging down houses, playing aggressively, and if your opponent's not ready for it, which a lot of the time is why Aizamk stuff works, if they're not quite sure how to respond, that can be strong. But if they're used to it, they know they're expecting it, that's where you lose sort of the element of surprise, and I think Aizamk's style is perhaps not as good. But I think there's some merit. I don't know how familiar Mitoe is with the colonial. That's what I think we're going to see, some little colonial aggression, perhaps.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, I mean, look at where his Mitoe's gold mine is, and his first house has been built behind his TC. The one thing that maybe, I mean, he got his 3 bills 20 seconds quicker, which is good, obviously. He's going to have an extra shipment when he gets to age 2, which is potentially good. He's going to be aging at essentially the exact same time, so there's no real discrepancy there. The only thing is his bank, I mean, if you take a look at the wood levels, he's down 100 wood, and so his bank is going to be a little bit slower, which is going to make his next villager come out a little bit more slowly. Everything's just going to be that 20 seconds behind. And if Mitoe just does a really crisp, clean, straight 4-bank FF, and it's goes unpunished, which, I mean, right now we don't see any villagers moving across the map.
There are 2 forward villagers next to the 30 HP treasure.
We'll see. I'm interested.
Adding in another trading post, actually. This is very heavy on XP, but continue, Zusa.
Well, obviously, I mean, he has no intentions of making a bank, right? I mean, at this point,
absolutely not. No, this is very, very aggressive.
This is going to be, I think this is going to be a quick game. Either what he does works and it works really well, and he wins the game as a result.
I'm excited
in
now.
9 minutes, or it fails horribly and Mitoe is able to defend. The important, I think, will be whether or not Mitoe identifies what he's up against and adapts accordingly. If he just blindly uses this 400 wood from age up to make a bank, which potentially could happen. There are a lot of people who will do something similar to that, where they'll just make a bank with that 400 wood and just play eco. If that happens,
you sometimes forget to scout your opponent. Sometimes, I suppose, you play a Dutch mirror and you just think, oh, you know how this matchup goes. You pretty much expect the same thing every time. But if you don't scout it and it catches you by surprise, Jesus, that barracks is not up. It's not up yet, and his villages are working again. What's going on?
I don't know. That has to be a mistake. Either way, Mitoe didn't. So there's a couple different options Dutch can have in Dutch mirrors, one of which is really greedy, and you make a bank with the 400 wood, and you send 700 wood, and you get 3 banks, and then you're stable, versus doing this more traditional style, which is with the bank wagon and using your 400 wood to build the stable earlier. The barracks is now finished, but the stable is up. Mitoe has scouted it, and I don't know. It's 2 banks versus 2 TPs, and with Dutch and their high dependency on gold, I guess I'd rather have the 2 banks at the end of the day.
Yeah, we've got a pike in queue at that at that barracks, which is apparently no pikes in queue now. Oh, that's because they've just been trained. We've got 4 pikemen just out. This is. I'm not sure how much damage he can realistically do with just 4 pikemen here. We'll have to see what he follows up with. But at the moment, at the very basic kind of thing, you're looking at pikemen versus cavalry. Obviously, it's not going to be that because he's going to use these cavalry to raid. But cavalry definitely not going to be able to help him sort of defend very well against what Aizamk is pushing into his base right now. That pikeman trying to take down the village doesn't look like he's going to be very successful there, though.
A couple vills may be in danger of dying over here on the left-hand side as
Oh,
well. Let's take a quick look at the military queue, see what we got coming up. Looks like we do have pikemen in queue, but I guess he's going to pick up one vill for that cost.
yeah, he got one.
At the end of the day, I mean, what this is going to do, it's going to force Mitoe to play in Age 2, right? Nobody can consciously know that is a barracks training pike like a screen away from your town center and go to the fortress age. Like that just doesn't happen. So I fully intend to see with the 700 wood some sort of barracks be dropped down in the backside of Mito's base. There it comes down. And
yeah, he's identified this colonial pressure. He wants to get the racks up, get some skirms out, and really be very safe.
Yeah. And I mean that's interesting. Aizamk does have 2 banks now to go with his.
Oh, that could. He's just gonna siege it right down. It's not gonna even go up. Like that's potentially a big problem. What if it? Like I feel as if the placement there wasn't too good. Maybe put it on the very back of your base.
I was thinking when I originally saw Mito's layout of his base that it should go right behind the gold mine and the tower, kind of like mirroring where his stable is on the other side of that tower.
A little bit of an engagement there, conflict, no. Losing like a huss and a half for free, but go on.
I don't know, he is going to get the barracks up this go around. Losing a lot of huss for free though, unfortunately.
Yeah, not too good for him.
Yeah. The other thing that kind of makes me nervous now is that Mitoe is at 2 banks and no TPs, and Aizamk is at 2 TPs with Stagecoach and 2 banks. Like, that's a pretty big difference there.
Like, it's starting to look a lot better, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
there are a lot of pikes. That's an 8 pikeman shipment as well as joined here. And he's actually just going to go full YOLO on the bank. And I feel as if a lot of the time, you'll very rarely bring down a bank. It's got so many hit points that it's not worth trying to siege. They will call Minutemen and pop 5 units out of the barracks and really then go all in and force you off. And it feels as if this a lot of that doesn't work. Do you think he'll manage to bring it down there? There's a lot of pikes.
He's going to get it. I mean, here come the Minutemen and the Huss, and they're going to try and deny it. Obviously, if that bank goes down,
he's got a choice. He's choosing not to kill it.
Yeah, he would have lost a lot of pikes there to the Minutemen if he would have
said... So only 500 hit points there. That's like maybe two sort of throws of their fiery whatever
I think I would have done it because it's going to get much more difficult now. There's 5 skirms in queue. Minutemen and pikes are out here. Mitoe just needs to engage that. I think he should engage that. He's going to choose to lose the bank instead.
I
mean, I guess you understand it, right? I mean, he doesn't have skirms out at this point, but...
this is so ridiculous.
I don't know that Mito's going to be able to recover from this. He's in a very large hole. It's going to be very, very difficult.
It's as I say, if you don't expect it coming, it can be really strong. I think now that Mitoe's seen this build, if they played again and they did the exact same things, then Mitoe doing the more standard build would probably come out on top. But if he just pulls it, like he's so good at making stuff up, and it's really efficient stuff, like for the stuff that he's doing, of course. Like it's not like he can just it's like he's got like loads of really well practiced builds that are just non-standard and really ridiculous. And like sometimes when you try a new build out, you don't get it right and it can be bad because of that. But A seems to get everything perfect every time.
It definitely worked out. I mean, I guess the biggest adaptation that we need to see from Mitoe, if this were to be a second Dutch mirror after this, would be he would have to realize that when the forward barracks goes down, that he has to open racks himself. Opening 5 cav into 12 pike is never going to be good. But if he had made 5 skirms instead,
you can definitely force those pikes off with skirms. Like you just can't do it with cavalry, and you often open with cavalry in a Dutch mirror because of raiding.
You see the envoy in there tanking all the damage.
That's an Aizamk move as well. Like Mitoe in like sort of like adding in envoys. There's 5 there, isn't there? Am I right?
Yeah, there were 5. They were definitely trained envoys.
Yeah, trained up because they've got 200 hit points. It's a lot for 50 food. That
was actually some really good micro by Mitoe, to be perfully honest.
Oh, I didn't even notice the outcome. I was paying attention to these. You go on.
That was really good. Like he's actually. I mean, he's really far behind in eco right now, right? I mean, we have to consider A's
has
the
third TP as well.
He has 3 TPs. He has 4 banks
Oh,
versus
really?
Mito's 1 bank and 0 TPs.
Where did he get these from?
he is significantly far behind, but for the moment, he has a little bit of tempo with the push that he's got here. Yeah. I don't think it's going to matter.
No, 5 cav quite strong against
5 cav are good. But even if he were to lose all this stuff up front, like Mitoe still, he could siege down both of the structures up front and all of the TPs,
Yeah.
and he would still be one bank versus 4, right? Which is
Yeah,
in
that's
itself
not
like,
good.
yeah.
I mean, if the best chance he has is he needs to use this sort of tempo advantage you kind of mentioned to kind of bring down those 2 forward buildings, but it just doesn't look like he's going to be able to achieve it. Are there enough even pikes there to defend against the 5 cav? Cav going back now. They don't want to take damage from the pikes, but all in here, you've just got those red skirms in the back just sniping off those pikes, and that's sort of like his tank line to protect his skirms. Once they go down, yeah, those skirmishes are very vulnerable. Adding in more envoys, they are efficient in terms of HP. They tank, they sponge a lot.
They really are. I mean, they have 200 hit points and they don't have a unit classification, so they
Even
take a lot of
multipliers,
damage.
10% resist. Well, yeah, that's an Aizamk style thing as well. Aizamk often will train a bunch of envoys just to tank. That's something I see him do, and I think I would like to say that he sort of brought that into the meta. Can we say that? Like maybe that's the first new thing that we've seen in years. Wow.
There used to be a player named Damnet who used to use Russian priests like as a meat shield type thing. Like it was actually good. Like he had a reputation for like being a guy who liked to try like strange builds and stuff like that, kind of as well. And I don't know. I mean, it's a one-off type thing. It'll catch someone by surprise, and then they'll make an adaptation, and then you'll lose the next like 10 games in a row. But if you can continue to make these weird builds and these weird adaptations, like it actually does surprise me how often he is able to come up with something with a different civ that I haven't seen before and have it be successful.
He's very creative, Aizamk, and as you can see, it pays off for him. He's winning, and you were really like slandering the build, saying that this is not efficient in terms of economy, and it just banks are better than trading posts. But here, look at what we're seeing. Like I think it's the element of surprise. Like you are absolutely right about the efficiency of Mitoe's build, but here, yeah, surprise.
I mean,
perhaps.
when it comes down to it, like it just didn't get scouted in time, and at the end of the day, we were running, 12 pikes into 5 cav, which is really good, which is always going to be good. And he was able to push it into an advantage, and props to him for like making it actually work to his advantage. But I think if Mitoe were to see it again, he would
Absolutely.
realize. But
he'd be better. You'd open with firstly you'd open with a Rex and force the pikes off your house, and no damage would really happen.
I mean, if we think like if the Rex came first and he had 5 skirms or 10 skirms versus that first batch of pikes, those pikes all die, and then he's got a TP and no banks, and his Rex is getting sieged down by 10 skirms with like a 3 hush shipment coming next or something. Like
we can say with confidence that it's not as good. This kind of build. What does Mitoe need to do though at this point in the game? Like those Cavs doing,
Resign. There's nothing to do.
That is a pretty big score lead. Obviously, we've got lots more games coming up. This is a best of 7, but this is I don't know, this fight here.
He's winning the fights really hard.
All of his micro has just been like, it must be his mic.
The riders are going to come in. A 9 rider shipment, I would assume, will be coming here very, very shortly for Aizamk. When 9 rider comes, there's just there's I don't know. Like I'm actually not sure how Mitoe is getting out the numbers of units he is, because he's actually getting out an insane number, and he's getting on so many units. He has 1 bank. Like
where are his resources coming from?
Know.
What is this madness?
It's really good unit control, really good cav control, but soon I would have to assume the riders are gonna.
It won't last much longer. Like, even if he does win every fight, he can't, like, that won't win in the game, because Aizamk's economy is just flooding units, and no matter how well you micro, there's a point you can just put units in a fight and not do anything with them, and they'll probably just beat your opponent in sheer numbers, so.
Yeah.
I mean, even after winning that fight, Aizamk has a 77-point lead.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got 2 stables up now, right? And he's still, I mean, maybe even the more important thing is he still has an insane amount of map control as a result of all this too. So, Riders out in full force now, going to be able to easily dispatch these unupgraded Hussar. And I think we'll see Mitoe resign here pretty quick when he just sees the sheer number of Riders going to be pouring into his base.
Yeah, Aizamk's stacking up the resources though. Is he looking to age? No, he's spending them.
No, just a little bit of a macro error, I guess.
Perhaps.
There it is. There's the GG.
That's the GG. Just a really quick start, unexpected start, tearing down a bank, killing off some early buildings, and ultimately Mitoe just getting knocked over by some sort of Dutch pressure in the colonial. Obviously, we mentioned it's not quite as good, but here it definitely worked.
Yeah, and I mean, we can immediately see it. Like Mitoe realizes instantly what he should have done, which is, I mean, it's a sign of a good player, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he and I were both able to identify that Rex start it would probably just smash that build into the ground. And
Well, it definitely help it more. Like Cav, I mean, yes, in a typical Dutch mirror, if you're both playing efficiently, it's probably the right call. You can raid with cavalry, and you got the infrastructure up for Reuters in the following age. But in this particular game, yeah, Rax definitely would have been more favourable. We can conclude.